Welcome to today's stream. We've got a very special announcement stream for you today. We've made an announcement earlier at the British Esports Association. We've teamed up with Pearson, one of the leading education suppliers, and we're going to be talking about this today. So I'm joined by three very special guests. Just firstly, before I go into that, I'll allow the guests to talk more in detail about the BTEC qualifications, but basically what are they? They're level 3 qualifications, but mainly be delivered at colleges in the UK, but also opportunity globally as well, as I understand it. I may be corrected in a moment. And it's a great opportunity for students to learn about esports. It's sort of an all-encompassing course. It's not just focused on event management. It's focused on a bit of everything to give students a real taste of esports, to help them get a career in esports, or just adopt and take on loads of great transferable skills that they can use to get into other digital fields or technology or the games industry or anything else. So without further ado, I'm going to hope this works and move into our camera setup. So we've got everyone here you can see who I'm joined by today. And if you'd like to introduce yourselves, please, going clockwise, starting with yourself, Cindy, and then Tom and Rams.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be joining this stream today. My name's Cindy Rampsword. I work at Pearson, and I head up our BTEC and apprenticeship division. And I'm really excited to be here today talking about the launch of this really fantastic partnership with British Esports, which has been about developing a BTEC in esports, which I think is really, really relevant for many of you listening, and many kind of young people who would be looking at potentially developing a career in this industry and beyond.
Great, thank you, Cindy. Tom?
Hi there, everyone. My name's Tom Dorr. I'm the Head of Education for the British Esports Association. I'm also a secondary teacher. I still teach 3 days a week in a secondary school in Bath. I've been involved with the development of the BTEC from the start, with the relationship with Pearson, and I've also been a key part of the team writing it.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Rams?
Hello there, I'm Rams. I am the Senior Lecturer for Esports at the University of Chichester. I've been a former professional gamer. Been in the gaming scene for nearly 20 years or plus, and been given advice towards this BTEC that's going to go around, that you'll find out more information about very shortly.
Cool. Okay, we've had Hi Sushi RL in the chat. Has asked what's the announcements. You might have missed us going live there. I'm still getting to grips with the whole countdown timer thing, so we just went live. But basically, we've announced British Esports Association a partnership with Pearson today, one of the leading education suppliers, to offer BTEC qualifications in esports. So it's going to be great for college students and the likes to get a taster for esports. Not just in event management or one area, but lots of different areas, similar to Ram's course at the University of Chichester, which we'll get to talk about in a moment. So just moving on, if maybe we could start, guys, by telling us about these qualifications. I guess it would be good to start with you, Cindy, what the focus was for Pearson and what you hope these qualifications will achieve.
So I think the focus for us is we're always looking at developing our kind of qualifications and making them really relevant to the current world that we're living in, and relevant for learners, and actually really thinking about careers now, but careers into the future. And one of the attractions, I think, around British Esports was partly the number of young people that engage in esports, and some are gamers and some are working around the kind of peripheral of esports. But it was the fact that actually it's a growing industry. It's worth 1.1 billion. There are, I think, globally, and Tom and Rams will know these stats, but there's almost 500 million people engaged in esports around the world. And the real attraction for us was that it was when I kind of looked at young people in colleges who organise these events, it wasn't just about the gaming, it was about them kind of coming together, bringing different skills. And in developing the qualification, what we've done is looked at all aspects of esports. So it's, enterprise and entrepreneurships, it's organizing events, it's doing video streaming, it's coaching to kind of help people who are gaming, and Rams is laughing, but it's the kind of whole range. And actually what's really attractive about this qualification is that it is engaging for young people. It is about helping them to connect with each other, but it's actually giving them a range of skills, which means that they could go and work in this industry, or actually they're kind of gaining really transferable skills that can enable them to go and work in a number of different industries or progress to university. So for us, it's about really empowering young people and helping them to progress, but also actually adults as well.
Cool. Tom, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's tapping into that, the participation that happens in esports anyway. Ofcom, the report that they published last year about children's and parents' attitude to media, I think it's called, 81% of 12 to 15-year-olds are playing online video games for on average 12 hours a week. Our young people are doing this. Esports is an opportunity to engage a wider demographic of young people. And through esports, you can develop all the same holistic character development skills, teamwork, the leadership, the communication, the decision-making, the strategy, all that sort of stuff as you do through traditional team-based activities. So to take that one step further and develop a qualification that uses esports as the vehicle, it can motivate and engage a wider demographic of young people and hook them into something that they love doing. And if we are then preparing them for wider employment with the growing esports industry is growing exponentially around the world. So we're preparing young people for future jobs within the industry, or then, as Cindy said, it's the wider transferable skills. It's the tech-based skills, it's the cyber skills, it's the STEM-based, STEAM-based subject links as well that we're helping to prepare young people for. So it's the first qualification of its kind in the world. And so we're very, very proud to have been part of this and to bring this to market and to allow young people to engage.
Absolutely. And I've seen there's a few people asking questions in the chat. Please get your questions in, guys. I'm going to do my best to fit as many as those I can in as we go. I'll just run through some of the overview sort of areas first, and then I'll come on to questions when I can. So I'm making notes of your questions, so and I'll try and fit what I can in when I can. So I guess one of my core questions, Cindy, and Tom, the different types of Esports BTEC qualifications, right? Because it's not just one course. There are multiple different qualifications here. Could you maybe run through those and give us an indication of the different options available to students?
Yeah. Shall I kick off, Tom?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so we're actually offering it at two levels. So a full 2-year program at level 2, which is equivalent to GCSE, and a full 2-year program at level 3, which is equivalent to an A-level program. But within the program, there are also modules. So actually the way BTEC works is BTEC consists of a number of different modules, and the typical types of modules, which I kind of talked about a moment ago, include things like enterprise and entrepreneurship, running events, looking at coaching, looking at kind of video streaming, and really it's the kind of range of, including things like, I think there's something in there on well-being, there's something in there on marketing. So it's actually looking at, if you were running it as a business, what would be all of the different kind of component parts that you would need. There's stuff in there around networking, being able to do what we're doing now and get the kind of networking and the kind of streaming going. So it is the full range of skills. And I think actually the kind of vision for it is that as people, if you look at young adults, you may not want to do the kind of full 2-year program, but you might want to do a couple of the modules, which is about the areas that you want to kind of specialize in, and maybe that you might be looking at kind of going into employment in. So I think it kind of has the flexibility to say, do a full program at 16 or at 18, but actually also could you look at just working through individual units?
Yeah, sure. And this, so just to confirm, this can be taught by sixth forms?
Yeah, sixth form schools and colleges.
Yeah.
And we think there's a real opportunity. Obviously, there's an opportunity in the UK. We think for definite, and actually, we think about 100 centres will take this up in September, and we're hoping to get a first year enrolment of about 3,000. Yeah. But we also think, as Tom said, there is a huge opportunity overseas as well, because esports is global, and the engagement with young people is global.
Absolutely. So just sorry if I missed it. When you say schools as well, is that sort of the 15 to 16-year-old age group?
The level 2 qualification is predominantly for 16-year-olds, yes. So right. Doing GCSE. So 14 to 16-year-olds could potentially engage in this.
Right. Oh, that's brilliant. Just before we go on, I want to let Rams have a say, because if people aren't aware, Rams has a fantastic background in esports, having been a pro gamer in the past and senior lecturer for esports, as he said, at University of Chichester. I've been to the university. Rams kindly invited me to come along and do a guest talk on esports journalism to sports and esports students, and it was really fantastic. I was very impressed with the facilities and the setup there and the course structure. Rams, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that course, because it sounds to me that this BTEC qualification is similar to what you're doing, but at a lower level, not at the higher education level.
Yeah, I mean, before I start, actually, just going back to Cindy, I wasn't laughing at you, because everything that you said was absolutely right. I'm actually monitoring my students at the same time, and they're trying to make me laugh and making comments. So I've told them about what we're doing, and they're trying to, bet and say everything about it. So that was never at you, because what you said, to be fair, to start, is absolutely right. And for me personally, this is like been 10, 15 years in the making. Being through all this, going through all the gaming, all the professional side of it, being an amateur, semi-professional, professional. And then seeing the younger generation and thinking, it'll be great if we see these younger kids play games in schools and stuff like that. And now here we are. It's finally a reality. For me personally, I've loved every bit of it at the university. Yes, as you said, it's the BTEC it's sort of a grind down version. It's sort of like a basic version of what we do at university. I mean, but that's what it needs to be. It needs to, the sort of BTECs that you've announced, it has to be that way. It has to be a sort of a taster, so people know what they're getting into before they jump in and jump in head first into a deep waters. Because esports is a massive pond. It's a massive sea. Whether you want to be in coaching or as a player or as a manager, events manager, talent relations, those sort of things, it's starting to build up even more. But my view on this, I love it. Everything that we do at the university, it's similar to what, it's basically, this BTEC is what leads up to the university. I think, like, you get a lot more in depth at the university, but with the BTEC stuff, this is great because it just gives you a taste of what's to come and what you want to do. And there is a lot of diversity in it as well, according with the transferable skills, which is the key thing here, is the transferable skills. Mm-hmm. If we don't have that, then it's very hard to get other jobs, because in esports, it's very hard to get that job. What can you do in between getting that perfect job that you want and being where you are? And it's having those key skills, whether it's the public, whether it's decision making or public speaking or any type of those skills, project management, and you name it. So I'm grateful that Pearson's did come to us and asked us about it, and how we've generally molded this BTEC.
Absolutely.
I think it's all about the progression pathway, isn't it? And so at the moment, Pearson are also developing entry level and level 1 qualifications as well to feed into the level 2, level 3, and then that feeds on into university. So that's been a critical part of the development process, is to look at the university offerings that exist, and Chichester is one of the top courses in the country, and so we would highly recommend that. In the US now, there are over 200 colleges in the US offering scholarships for esports, exactly as they do for traditional sports. So the university the university offering in the UK is only going to grow over the coming years. And so that's why we've developed the modules that we have, the units that we have. There's the esports specific units, the strategies, the skills, the specific coaching, the streaming, the shoutcasting. But then there's also, as Cindy has said, the entrepreneurship, the theory behind the coaching, the sports psychology. There's legal stuff in there. It's all using, though, esports as the vehicle. There's no exam content in the BTEC. It's all based on coursework. It's all based on internal assessment at the colleges. But all the coursework that young people will complete will be using esports as the vehicle. So if it's designing or designing logos, designing merchandising, launching an enterprise, it's going to be esports based. So you might be launching your own esports team, for example, that you have to design your logos for, design the merch for. So it's using esports as the vehicle, even if it's wider business, entrepreneurship, marketing, use of social media, it's all based around esports.
I mean, and that's the real attraction of it. I mean, I think, and you know, Rams, you're right. It's about building the progression. And Tom, is that if you're going to go and do a kind of an engineering degree at university, you're going to do your kind of A levels or your BTEC. That will be science based, and in a way it's exactly the same. It's kind of building the foundations, it's getting the kind of interests and the expertise, but it's kind of developing a progression that could be into esports. And as you said, it's growing in universities, but also, you know, some people might step off and decide they want to kind of go into the world of work. And I mean, I think it is about kind of empowering and enabling young people.
Yeah.
This is the thing as well. Sorry, before this is the thing. Like when people want to go to university and stuff like that, sometimes they'll want to do a course, but it's not for them. It's not fun for them. But with sort of esports, you can sort of tag stuff onto it. So you could do esports and networking, or esports and production, esports and psychology. You're basically adding just sort of the fun factor of what esports is onto a proper course like psychology and, you know, stuff like that. But you're enticing them for that. You're giving them something that will be fun and something that they can do. You know, a lot of courses that I've seen, a lot of people, they don't want to go to university because it's maybe a bit you know, too much for them. You know, it's overpowering and stuff like that. They need something that can you know, give them focus. And I think that's what with esports, that's what can be done. A lot of young gamers, as we've got on the Twitch channel right now, and a few others as well, you know, out there who want to go to university, experience the university life, but can't really do certain, I guess, certain degrees. With this, though, it just gives them that sort of empowerment because they're doing something they love. They're passionate. It's that passion that we bring out of them, and that they can focus on their work. So if we bring it along with them, you know, that's what I've seen. And that's what I see with my students is that, you know, these when they first came in, they were shy, they were timid, and everything else. Give them a few weeks, talking about games, what they love. My God, I can't shut them up anymore. So it's really one of those things. It's really one of those things, and that's what I love about this, and especially in colleges now, and you know, with this BTEC, it's going to open up them more as a person, and that's what I'm ready for. That's what I'm really going to believe, is that this course will be or esports and whatever tagged along will be the opener for many students.
Yeah, and this is why it's the importance in the transferable skills, because if we take traditional sport as an example, the numbers of young people who want to be footballers, in reality, the people that actually make it to that elite level are very few. Same thing in esports to a certain extent. You know, people want to be pro players, playing for Fnatic, playing for XL, whoever it might be. The reality is that not everybody is going to get there. And unlike some of the traditional sporting courses that you can do at schools and colleges now, with this esports course, the transferable skills that we're developing through this are going to be preparing people for more opportunities within a wider tech industry, digital industry, within the wider video games industry that esports sits within. So even if they're not making it as pro players, or they're not necessarily working within a professional team or professional setup, most of them won't. There are still huge transferable skills that they can get from courses like this that can go into linked industries.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because sort of Gen Z and what they're looking for in terms of life, and actually how they want to kind of interact and create their social communities, it also really supports all of that. And if you look at what, you know, researchers talk about needing the skills that people need to be successful in the future, and you talked about a few of them, you know, Tom, around you know, being adaptable, being able to think on their feet, being able to create, being able to work in teams. And actually, Rams, you talked about this. People come in and they're shy, and then they start working as a team, and someone's doing the eventing, somebody else is doing the hosting, somebody else is doing the shoutcasting, a new word. So they're kind of coming together and creating a kind of community and a kind of social network, which is really great for their well-being and confidence. So I think it has many dimensions, the kind of technical learning, but also the kind of the social well-being, you know, bit that I think is really
it's important. It's a good one to mention there, and that because that
Yeah.
addresses a lot of misconceptions or preconceptions that parents or people from outside looking in have, that this is an inherently individualistic thing. You're on your own, you're in front of a screen, whereas in reality that can't be further from the truth in terms of the esports community and the way it supports each other, the way it works with each other. And inherently, esports is teams of people playing against other teams of people. You're not playing against a computer, you're with your team, you're with your friends, and you're playing together. So it is inherently a social activity. And for some people who struggle in the usual circumstances, or the usual the perceived normal social environment, thrive in this environment. And it gives them a voice, it gives them somewhere they feel confident. It's exactly as Ram said, ask one young person to stand up in front of 30 other people and they're not going to be able to speak. Ask them to sit in front of a computer as part of a stream with headphones on and talk, boom, they're off. It's allowing different people to find their own strengths and find out what works for them.
Yeah, can I just address a few things in the chat, guys? It's me, Dark18. Put themselves forward to maybe talk on future panels and things like that. Please just contact us. I think Morgan's logged in as our marketing manager is logged in at the British Esports Twitch account and has got back to you guys. Please just DM us on Twitter or myself or anyone on the team, or send us an email. And the same goes to Officer Naughty, who I know is a great coach / manager in UK League of Legends. So thanks for being on the stream, guys. There's a question I wanted to ask here that Taniko2's asked. How does this tie in with T levels? Because there's some changes that the government are making, right? I need to get more clued up on that as well. So any advice there?
Yeah. So on T levels, it's a new group of qualifications that the government is looking to introduce. In fact, we're running 2 of the pathways at Pearson, one on digital and one on construction, and they're going to be for first teach in September. T levels are really, the way we see it is that kind of going forward, learners need a number of different routes available to them. So there'll be young people who will always go down the academic route. There'll be young people who will be looking for these more kind of career-focused routes, which we think the BTEC Esports is all about. And then there'll be young people who are looking at being more technical and actually, to a certain extent, looking at specialising earlier in terms of knowing what they want to do. So the government is rolling out these new qualifications. We're delivering 2 of them, really determined to make sure that they're a success. But we're really clear that in the landscape going forward, we talked about flexibility and transferability of skills. You can only have that actually if you've got choice in the system. So we're feeling really confident about the role of the BTEC Esports and actually BTEC generally in that new environment, coexisting with T levels.
T levels requires a lot of industry input as well, doesn't it? And work experience and things like that. And if I'm honest, the esports industry in the UK simply isn't in that place to be able to offer the sheer volume of work experience to the sheer volume of students that would want to do it. Another 3 to 5 years down the line, who knows where we're going to be. But for T levels to be a success, they need that level of work experience. And so that's why there's a very few T levels. I think there are very few T levels being offered It's not a very wide breadth of offer, I don't think, at this stage.
Yeah, and I think the plan is to kind of roll out T-levels over time. And actually, you're right. It's the really important bit is the employer engagement, and actually learners need to do quite a substantial employer project, which is a fantastic thing because we know that young people need the experience of the world of work. But I'd agree with you, Tom. I think the esports industry is also likely to be a kind of micro industry for quite a while, rather than a lot of kind of enterprise and entrepreneurship, I think. If you look at the kind of sponsorship and events industries and how they operate.
Spiron in the chat, I know you've asked a good question there. I'm going to try and come on. I've made a note of that. I'll try and come on to that later. I just want to really run through all the basics of the course and everything first, so please stick around and I'll do my best to get onto that. One thing I really wanted to ask our panellists, how these BTECs were developed, because I've seen the course documentation, and I'm not just saying this, it won me over. I'm very impressed with that. I believe Gary on our team, who's previously at Sunderland College as a teacher there, helped with that. Ram said he's helped. What's sort of gone into this, and how have they been developed?
Sure. So I guess what we did, there was a team of us, team of teachers, of lecturers, teachers who've run the esports qualifications. There were teachers there on the media side, lecturers whose background was in the media side of things. There were others whose background was in the sporting side of things, the coaching side of things. There were others on the games design and the computer animation and effects and things like that. And so we had a breadth of experience within the team. And we essentially brainstormed ideas as to what we thought young people moving into the industry would need. We looked at what the universities were doing, and that was part of the conversations that were originally had with Rams and with the University of Chichester to find out where they were, and so we could plan the progression in. And essentially, we mapped that out, and we thought, right, okay, there are specific aspects that we want to see take place, like understanding about the organisation, the logistical structure of esports, both within the UK and how it sits legally, and different organisations where they sit in the UK, but then around the world. We knew there needed to be things strategically about different games, different genres of games, the strategies involved in the different games. We knew we wanted things around events, because events and live events are such a big part of esports and the esports industry. But then you can't then get away from things like the streaming and the video production and the shoutcasting. So we then reached out to people within the industry. Kiernan Lowe, for example, one of the shoutcasters who sits on the British Esports Advisory Board, aka
ex-scoundrel.
So he helped out with the shoutcasting module, for example. And so all the time we were looking for advice and just checking, have we got this right? Is there anything we need to add here? We've obviously spoken with Garvey a lot at Twitch, and very much have had a lot of support from Twitch and from Garvey's experience.
So he's head of student partnerships.
Yeah,
for
he's
context there.
Director of Education and Student Services, Student Partnerships at Twitch. He's been brilliant with us, and so reaching out to lots of different people to say, right, have we got this right? Is this going to provide young people with the skills that industry would need? And we think we've got it right. We think we're there, and that's why we're really proud to have made this announcement today.
Yeah, excellent.
I think when you look at the different elements and components that Tom's just talked about, you can see that actually this has really worked, because there's been real engagement with learners and actually people who are involved in the industry have been at the heart of it and advised. And I think the partnership that's been formed has been amazing. And internally in my team, I mean, two of the people that have really led on this is a guy called James Emmett, who's been working really closely with you, Tom, but on the product development and looking at the kind of educational pathway, Laura Hall has really, really led on this with the team internally. But I think they've been really clear. It's about working with you and working with experts in the field to make it really, really relevant for learners. So it's something that is engaging, So I think it's fantastic, and I think that's why we stand by the curriculum and we feel so proud of it.
Absolutely. Brock Esports has asked in the chat, and this ties in with my next question nicely. He said, will you have established professors learn about esports and adapt courses, or do you have other plans? So I was going to ask, who will teach these BTECs and what kind of training will be available to those teachers? Similar questions, really.
So it's...
Go on. You go.
Okay. It's by its nature and the way we've designed this course, it is a cross-curricular course and has content from lots and lots of different areas. So from that aspect, it's not like your traditional science or your humanities or your PE. It's going to require cross-curricular teaching, essentially. And this is going to be up to the individual colleges to work out the best ways of teaching it. It could be led by somebody from the computing department. It could be led from somebody in the media faculty. It might be led from somebody within the sporting faculty. It is completely up to each college to work out the best way of them doing it. Different colleges around the country that we're working with already do it differently. Barnsley College, it sits within the sports. It sits in the sports faculty. Sunderland College, it sits within the computing faculty and the games design faculty. It is up to each individual institution, essentially. In terms of training, there's going to be a wide range of training available, CPD available for teachers who are going to, and lecturers who are going to be teaching this, because some of it will be outside of their comfort zone. If they're, for example, they're a business or an entrepreneurship enterprise teacher, and they're having to teach bits about the legal side of esports, okay, there is going to be things that there is CPD involved here for teachers. And that's part of the role that Pearson are playing. We're still going to be at British Esports. We're still going to be part of that and helping to develop those resources and deliver that training from our side of it as well. So there are lots of opportunities and lots of materials that are going to be are available and going to be made available through Pearson to help teaching colleagues to upskill themselves to be able to deliver the course effectively.
Yeah, so we're going to be we've got learning resources that have been developed as part of this, which is, I think a lot of it's available now, and that you could, the colleges could take up. But also we're going to run a series of webinars. And the other thing that we do when we roll out new quals is we tend to, the kind of colleges that are taking it up and adopting it, we'll actually go in and do some hand holding where that's required, because actually what we're trying to do is set you up to succeed, to be able to deliver these. But I think a lot of the expertise will be within colleges, and as you said, it will be how it's kind of pulled together from an esports overall perspective. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And so next on my list, this is a discussion point that seems to come up every now and then, in that we have more and more of these qualifications for esports now. Different universities and now colleges will be offering these courses, and obviously there's only a finite number of jobs. Esports is still growing. We've only seen in recent years, really, on the grand scheme of things, football clubs and big sports companies get into esports and hire and create new jobs in this field. But there's obviously going to be a finite number of jobs in esports. What would you say to those people? Because for me, this course, it doesn't mean you're going to definitely get a job in esports, but it will give you transferable skills that you'll be able to get similar jobs, or get a marketing job, or get a job in coaching, for example.
Yeah, and I think that's key. The transferable skills that we've mentioned are critical there. So, for example, one of the units is all about use of social media to launch a business, to launch an enterprise. Now, in the BTEC qualification, that's going to be based around esports. However, using social media to launch a business or to run a campaign is the same anywhere. Likewise, having to write a development plan to launch a business. Now, in the BTEC, students will be doing that using esports as the vehicle. But in reality, they're still developing those transferable skills of how to write a business plan, how to pitch a business plan to investors. That's all massively, massively transferable. And so the same thing, think of the people who go to university and study geography. Are all those people going on to be geographers? No, they're not, but they're learning transferable skills that they can then transfer into the job market. So it is a valid point with a growing industry, but the industry is growing globally. So we live in a global environment. Well, maybe not in a global environment at the moment with the lockdown, but we live in a global society now. And so as the industry grows, not just in the UK, but around the world, those job opportunities are going to be global.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually that was what I was going to add, is that it's growing at a really, really fast rate. And actually, I think, even they had F1 was on, wasn't it, a few weeks ago, the kind of the two races that kind of esports race. So actually, one of the things that we've seen as a result of the lockdown and COVID is actually more demand for these types of events, maybe sometimes the kind of online. And actually, I wonder whether it will kind of encourage further growth in the industry, and actually not just through the kind of big players, but also through kind of small enterprises. And who knows? But I think the opportunities around the industry will be there. So I think it will continue to grow. It will be big players. It will also be sort of smaller players. But then what you'll also get is some people looking at the kind of transferable skills. But I wouldn't say people are doing this in a sector or a qualification in an area where there are no jobs, because actually it's a growth industry.
Okay, cool. And this is more of a simple question. How can students sign on to one of these courses? I guess it's too early to say, right? I've seen there's a register interest link that we've put in the chat.
Yeah. And I think looking at their colleges, so most colleges by now, although obviously this is a really not a typical year, obviously, but they will have developed their kind of curriculum plan for next year, so they'll know what courses they're looking to offer. So what we could also do is look at how we can share the link of colleges that are looking at running these next year, so that students can kind of then register their interests with their local colleges.
And it's a question as well of students, if you want to do this, go and find your lecturers, go find the media team, go find the games design team, and say, look, I've just seen this. I've seen this on Twitch. I've seen this on online. Can we have a look at this? And actually, this is the way we found that a lot of esports in schools and colleges has been driven. It's not been driven by the staff. It's been driven by the students. And so actually, if you know that there's a number of you who are interested in this sort of thing at your college, or then put it forward as an idea. Colleges are going to be very interested in this, because they can see just how much interest there'll be from young people. And if they know they can get a number of students on a course, they're going to be looking at it for sure.
Okay, cool. I've seen Jack Stone, you're commenting a lot. Just give me a DM or an email after this, and I'll happily look into that for you. But I want the focus of this stream to be specifically on the Esports BTEC Qualifications, so we don't get too distracted. On that note, Tom, how can colleges and teachers go about running these courses? Is the door open from Pearson?
Absolutely. So if you look on our website, look on Pearson's website. It's been launched today. There's all the information you need is on the Pearson website in terms of information about what esports actually is, but then the details of the specification and what needs to happen in terms of centre registration, centre verification. If schools and colleges are already Pearson centres, if they're already running BTECs, then they'll be they'll know the process that they have to go through. Obviously, the esports is just one of many different types of BTECs available, and one of many different types of Pearson qualifications. And so centres themselves will be very confident with what that actually means and what it looks like. In terms of the specifics of the esports BTEC, schools and colleges need to make sure they've got enough kit, for example, and that's going to be something they need to look at specifically, is to make sure that they've got the PCs with the capability of running these games and running the software that is required, streaming software and that type of thing, and making sure they've got the technical support within the IT teams, the technicians, to give them the support that they need for that, not just setting up the course, but then throughout the year as it, patches, updates, and things like that need to be installed on a regular basis. All that information, though, is available on the Pearson website.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And Cindy, what kind of response have you seen to the announcement today? Because we've had a lot of good coverage from national media and education media, Sky Sports, Esports Insider. It seems to have been very positive.
Yeah, it has been really positive, and I think it's been positive because it's about the kind of engagement. I keep using that word of young people, and I think it's also because it's really relevant, and I think they can see the curriculum being really rich, and certainly the colleges that we've engaged with, and actually people that we've engaged with as part of the development, have been really positive about this. So I think we've had really, really fantastic media response, but also the kind of response from providers who are, interested in running these courses have been really positive. And it sounds like, I'm hoping that from the chat that you can see that there's real interest from maybe some of the people on the chat as well. So really positive.
Absolutely.
And I was going to say, we are aware as well that it's always really difficult launching any product, but this is a really exciting product. But launching it in this environment is also, is quite an interesting one, really. And one of the things that Tom and I were talking about earlier was what the other thing that we're looking at is this is about teaching in colleges from September, but we're also looking now at how we can kind of fast track what does a kind of online or a blended delivery of this look like, because actually we want learners to get on this program as soon as they can, and we don't know what's going to happen with kind of the phasing of coming out of lockdown, but it's making sure that they aren't disrupted. So also, esports is about technology and the future, so we kind of want the learning to be about technology led and the future as well.
Absolutely. From a more of I guess a selfish standpoint, looking at the British Esports Association, there seems to be a good crossover between these new courses and our British Esports Championships for schools and colleges, which we had our finals on the weekend, and Rocket League was fantastic. I think we had around 1,800 live viewers at one point, which is really good for a grassroots, student-led competition. Do you think that's a natural fit for colleges to offer this course and take part in our championships? Because I, for one, hope so. It would be great to see those numbers climbing up even higher than what they are now.
I think the British Esports Champs is an opportunity for the young people to actually put their theory into practice. Really, it's the equivalent of, if you think of other traditional sports, if you're learning academic PE, then you'll go off and play rugby, or you play football, or you play hockey. If you're studying the sciences, you might take part in different competitions linked to science or linked to engineering. The same thing will happen with this. It's the opportunity for young people to take their skills, to take their passion, and play competitively, and to get better, to compete, to represent. Because there are a lot of people, yes, there are lots of esports people who are into esports who are also into traditional sports, or music or art or drama, where they get to represent their school or represent their college. But then there are other young people who don't represent their institution in those usual traditional things. Whereas esports provides them with that opportunity to succeed and to do their best. Rams, is there anything you want to add to that sort of stuff, really, about the competition side?
I mean, again, it's great that we've got this, really. I mean, there are people who don't like doing physical sports. They don't like, they're not able to do physical sports because of, whether it's a mental or physical issue. But they want to represent their college or their school in some way or the other. And again, with gaming, there is no like strength or physical sort of requirements for it at the same time. It's all about your mental game. There is little physical, I should say, but it's not as physical as, say, a football or rugby or something like that. But it's still something that these students can represent their their colleges and schools at. So I think, like, again, I could go back in the day, we didn't have this. For me, it was like the Sunday league. It was very like disorganized and stuff like that, and not trying to have a team and trying to find players and stuff like that. With this, it's very organized. You get to do a lot more things. The British Esports Championships, unfortunately, I did miss some of it, but I did catch some of the Rocket League. It's great because you're getting to see these people develop, not just as players, but as casters, observers, all these little things that you wouldn't normally do. You see them develop, and it was great to see.
Yeah, and do you know what I love from the championships as well, in particular, and other grassroots student esports tournaments? We're seeing this crossover now, this integration with the pro level. XL Esports, British Hurricane, Greg Ann are going to be coaching our winners, which is fantastic. On the Rocket League stream, we had a top player, Bluey, in the chat, you know. And afterwards, we raided the stream of an up and coming female Rocket League streamer. There's all this. We're one big community, you know, and that's what I like about this. I'm conscious of time. You guys have asked some great questions, and I want to ask those. So, just lastly, last question from me before I open it up to questions, and I've got a good handful already to ask there. What's next for Pearson and British Esports? What can we expect to see in the future, or is that too early for me to ask that?
Well, I kind of talked about the online, didn't I? About the ambition to kind of move it online. And the other thing I think is looking at where esports, the BTEC in esports could move abroad. We think that there's a real demand in other markets, and BTEC is, I think earlier we said that we run BTECs across a number of different business sectors, and actually we kind of run BTEC in most markets that we operate in around the world, and we think there's real demand, and we know that this is a global industry, and actually what we'd really like to do is look at actually engaging and taking it out to some of the other markets. So I think online and looking at how we can expand internationally, definite. Tom, do you want to come in just in case you disagree?
No, I absolutely agree. And this is one of the exciting things for British Esports to partner with a global organisation like Pearson. It's the reach that Pearson has into education markets around the world. And like we said, this is the first qualification of its kind in the world that's been developed. And so it's a fantastic opportunity to help set the standards essentially in esports education around the world, because we want young people to come away from this with a valuable qualification that helps them on the next stage, helps them to access the next stage of their education journey, be that going on to study degrees in esports, or be that studying whatever other courses they choose that they do. But we have deliberately developed this qualification so it has a value, it has a currency, and allows young people to proceed in the next stage of their education.
Cool. Okay, so opening up to questions. If you have any questions in the chat, please ask them now. I'll try and whittle through what we can in the next sort of 10-15 minutes or so. I hope I've got some of these names right. SKV
I think one question should be asking Rams what are his students asking him or saying?
Yeah, I can see him smiling every now and then.
Yeah.
They're in the Twitch channel. That's what, you know, you can see them already. They were spamming quite a bit, and they just, you know, they're a great bunch either way. Okay. Yeah, they're trying to make it very interesting. That's, you know, there you go. You can see they're already chatting in the channel. But no, that's almost fine. I'm listening and then watching the stream at the same time, and
well, it shows the integration, doesn't it? It shows the engagement as well, that young people have with this, that students have with this, and which is a great thing.
Well, this is another thing as well. I mean, with those being the students from the university, I mean, they could give you their insight into, you know, why have they gone to university, and, you know, why they're looking at esports as a course as well, and what their sort of their opinion is through their insights, you know. I mean, so like they're a great bunch. They've worked hard up to what they've done. I mean, they might tell you otherwise. They might tell you I'm an idiot, you know, but, you know, it's, you know, these little things, but they're, you know, other than that, I'm sure some of them don't think that anyway. It's fine. But it's, but no, in all joking aside, it's opened them up as people. And, you know, going back actually what you said, Tom, before, I haven't really led my course, to be fair. It's actually been mostly the students. They're what they want, you know. They've been telling me, you know, what they're looking to focus on, whether it's management or whether it's, you know, coaching or whether it's events, production. You know, they're the ones that are telling me what they want. And I've just been, in a sense, just guiding around them, you know, and it's great. And it's just showed from them that they're showing their, you know, the strength, and they're showing the courage to, you know, say, this is what I want, this is what I want to focus on, rather than going, I don't know yet what I want to do yet. They really want, they know what they want to focus on. They want to know where they want to go. And it's because of this course. Like I said to you, starting in September, they were timid, they were shy. Now they'll tell you what they want and they won't give a damn. And it's great. And you want those sort of people to come out and tell you, and it's because of, not just because, it's because this esports course, for me, I get to open up such individuals. And I'm hoping that with the colleges, with the BTEC and Pearson's and British Esports, we can open up the future of these students a lot more, and they'll be more willing because they're doing something that they enjoy, they're passionate about, they're open-minded to it. Whereas if you put them on something that they don't enjoy, it's very hard. It's very hard, but this again, I love again, I go back to it. I love what Pearson's have done, British Esports have done. And I look forward to everybody, who wants to come on board into the colleges and, represent their colleges, represent their schools. And, it's good because, we're getting to see a growth in the industry and in education. And that's what you want, is both working at the same time. And this is one of the most pinnacle, I would say, aspects in right now, is that esports brings both of them very well together.
Okay, guys, I'm just conscious of time, and I've got about 6-7 questions here from people. So if we can spend maybe 1-2 minutes absolute max on each question, if possible, if just one of you are able to take each question, that would be great. SKV and GRRTV asked earlier, so will this qualification be a combination of traditional sport and media qualifications? As I understand it, it's not, right? It's more bespoke than that.
No, it's more bespoke than that. It's taking some of the units within the BTEC are taking aspects of the media courses and aspects of where there is crossover, but then using esports as the vehicle, essentially, to use esports as the practical example of that.
Cool. Okay. So next, we had a question from Spyron, who's done some great work for us in the past. Thank you, Spyron. What do I need to tell the senior leaders to get them to take this on board? To take this seriously, I guess.
So I think it's telling them that you're really interested in doing the course, or young people are in doing the course. And actually, it's all the stuff that we've talked about, which is the kind of the breadth of the curriculum, the fact that actually it offers progression to higher education or into kind of enterprise. It's all the stuff about the transferable skills. It's all the stuff around community and teamwork, which is about kind of well-being and actually really plays into enrichment, which colleges talk about a lot, which is those kind of softer skills. Rams is nodding his head. There isn't enough enrichment in colleges now in terms of those kind of softer skills, and actually the esports curriculum includes a lot of those kind of softer skills. So I would just, say that there's real demand, but there's real benefits helping young people to kind of grow, develop, and progress.
And another thing,
sorry, Rams, go on.
Sorry, and another thing just to add on that is that the enrichment is a key thing, and it opens up a lot more for the students. Again, you'll see a lot of college students anyway playing games, and this will entice them to actually, work better towards what they want. So whether it's, like I said, esports and media, esports and production, or esports production, or esports and coaching, or esports and psychology, they're actually tagging onto something. You're tagging on enrichment with a course, a proper course, and that's what's going to get them gripped in. Is that they're doing something they love and learning something they want to do in the future as well. So it's those two things together. That's the way I see it.
There's lots of support and information available on the British Esports website as well. That's what I spend a lot of my time doing, is speaking to senior leaders to open their eyes to what esports actually is and how it can be used as the vehicle to hook and motivate young people.
Yeah, cool. Question from Wimbar in the chat. That's John from Epic Land, who again has helped massively with our British Esports Championships. Thank you to John and helping us right from the start run those weekly matches and everything like that. He's asked, how or who will monitor the quality of delivery, and how frequently will the curriculum be updated? So kind of two questions there.
Yeah, so in terms of quality assurance, we will be responsible for that. So obviously the teaching and learning and the assessments will happen in colleges, and then we have a process where what we do is we work with colleges, and we kind of verify the quality of the work and the assessments that students are undertaking, and we kind of we basically make sure it's benchmarked and that quality standards are being met. And actually, that's really important for this qualification to have credibility. And then what was the second bit?
The second one was, how frequently will the curriculum be updated?
Well, this is an interesting question, because I think on curriculum like this, I think it has to be reviewed every couple of years, because the world outside is changing. And actually, in the same way as esports is brand new curriculum because it's a brand new industry or kind of growing industry, the industry will change and we'll need to continually update it.
And that's one of the conversations that British Esports have been having with Pearson from the start, to say, look, even at the moment, look at Valorant, the new game out at the moment, and how many millions of people are playing that, and that's within 3 weeks. The industry is changing all the time. So we very much need to still have that input, or that ongoing input with this, to ensure it remains relevant. I think it's just worth saying as well that the process that we've had to go through to get to this stage, in terms of going through the Education Skills Funding Agency, the government-based agencies, to get the backing to launch this course, it's a hugely rigorous process that we've had to go through to get to this point in time anyway, let alone before the launch, isn't it? And so we are very confident in what we've produced, essentially.
Yeah, cool. Carnival said in the chat, don't forget JX's question, and Elliot said he won't. You're right, Elliot. I didn't forget. JX has asked, up until now, an esports qualification has not been needed for a job in esports. Experience has been key, which is correct. How will having this qualification benefit people starting a career in esports? I think Rams touched on this at the start of the show, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's very hard nowadays to get, unless you have that experience yourself. For me, years ago, it was easy. It was like, because there was no such sort of, there was no big teams, there's no big franchises, there was no big companies at the time. So, you go by sort of word of mouth and just little things, and you develop from there. Nowadays, though, you've got bigger teams, franchise teams, who need people who need to do videography, who need to do social media, who need all these sort of etiquettes nowadays. And, qualification is one thing, but if a team or a company see that on your CV, that they know that you're part of that sort of community, that area, then it looks good, right? But however, I mean, if you're doing like, I had this conversation actually with Red Eye, because he said to me that, coming through into the future, if he was looking to hire someone, he wouldn't really hire with an esports degree, and it's very hard. He wouldn't just hire them, because an esports degree is sort of basic, and it's a basic overall thing. But if it had like esports and marketing, and if he was looking for some marketer, but someone had that interest in esports, that's where they look at. It's key. So like these sort of companies, for like Red Eye with his Code Red and Rogue and Excel, they have to look at these people right now, because again, it's not just the person in front. It's everybody around you in who's the better one, who's the better person, and that this degree is sort of sets you out. These sort of accomplishments will set you out on your CV.
100%. Can I just add to that as well, Rams? The landscape has changed. 20 or however many years ago, when Odie set up Team Dignitas, what Rams is saying is right. There weren't many teams back then. There wasn't much competition. So if you knew what you were doing and you started something up, you learnt by doing. Now, there are so many hundreds, thousands of teams out there, thousands of prospective casters wanted to, get a job in esports. It's harder, and you have to set yourself apart now more and more. So if you can't get that experience yourself in grassroots teams and things like this qualification or series of qualifications, I guess, is an option for you.
And that's just that. Sorry, Don, but that's just that. Is that you're getting the experience through the BTEC, you're getting the experience through British Esports, through the colleges, and that's on your CV. And that's the key difference, is that you're getting all this experience. Because otherwise, if you're just trying to go, I want to be a caster, and then you ask a company to say like ESL, do a casting role, what evidence have you got? You've got nothing. You've got nothing on the plate. Yeah. Whereas going through this sort of role that Pearson's and British Esports are providing, you've got something, and you get accessibility to the stuff that you want to be doing, whether it's media, whether it's event production, whether it's, the teams, management. You're getting this accessibility, and that's the evidence that companies, teams, franchises, you name it, out there will look at. And that's the biggest key difference that it is today than it was about 10, 15 years ago.
Absolutely. Right, I know I'm coming up with, we're on the hour now, so there's just 2 more questions here. Brock Esports asks, will integration between the program and esports teams or clubs be included in the curriculum, or is it up to the individual institution to arrange that?
It's going to be up to, we're talking to Excel. We're talking to the big teams, the big franchises. We have the connections with them, but it will be up to the individual colleges to make links with their local clubs, local teams within their areas as well. We're hoping that the resources that we're going to be developing to go alongside the teaching of the BTEC, we're going to be working with your Fanatics, your Excels of this world, to use case studies from their teams. But then it will be up to the individual institutions as well, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And many of them run events already, don't they, within the colleges?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So lastly, St Vincent Sharks has said, and I believe this is a teacher, correct me if I'm wrong, I have SEN students. Yeah. I have SEN students who would love to access a qualification like this. Could there be a possibility of an adapted level 1 or entry level qualification that could lead to higher levels at a later date?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we're just working on that now with Pearson. Literally in this last week, I've been sent the overview of entry level and level 1 qualifications for this. So yeah, absolutely, watch this space.
Yeah. I guess lastly from me as well, I don't know if this was covered when these qualifications start. It's September 2020. There may be people watching thinking, well, what's going to happen with the current COVID-19 situation? Would that be a sort of play it by ear down to the individual colleges? Do you expect this qualification to be taught remotely?
So I think I expect the qualification to still start. I think colleges are still going to be enrolling students, and actually what we've seen is colleges have been incredibly adaptable at kind of teaching online and doing virtual learning. And one of the reasons that we're really pushing ahead with the kind of online modules and the kind of digital elements of this is so that actually if we are disrupted again, learners can kind of continue on their studies.
100%. Okay, is there anything else anyone would like to add before we conclude the stream? No?
I mean, just thinking about it quickly, like how Tom and Cindy were saying about the adaptive, this is great because, the adaptability of the curriculum. Yes, we are in this, unfortunate, this crisis time of the COVID and all that, but it shows how well that education side and hopefully the colleges can take upon this sort of thing. Because yes, it's very tough, but esports is one of those areas where you don't necessarily need to be there. And if they can get it right, because it's not easy. Like by all means, they've done, like Pearson's and British Esports have done massive work. Like I've seen it and it's crazy. Now it's because of this crisis. It's how do they change that around? How do they adapt to that? I think one of the easiest things, because it's online, is that it will be far easier in some places for them to do. And I am really appreciative now because, like I said at the beginning of the stream, 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have this, and now we've got people who are now here who are setting this up, doing this thing. And I wish for like the students that are listening to this is that to support this as best as possible. If there are people who are teaching this and they might not understand esports, help them out. Some of my students help me out a lot more than I know, but then I teach, like we go back and forth. It's like, the biggest problem that I have is that, yes, there are not many teachers at the moment teaching esports because they don't understand it. But this is a great way for the students to interact with the teachers to help them out. And both ways they help each other out. And this is what I found out. This is my first year actually teaching at university. It's my first year teaching. And I found out that, if you encourage the students with their esports, they'll encourage you to learn as well. And it is a massive gap. It's a massive gap that has closed so much for me in terms of teaching. And now with like the likes of Cindy and Tom doing this, I'm hoping that students will also help them out in guiding them in terms of crafting this whole educational system. Because without the students, there won't be us. There is no teachers. There is no sort of.
This is a massive opportunity moving forward. Is for young people, the young people who are doing these qualifications and doing the degree, to actually move into teaching as well, and to teaching new, not just esports, but new creative, emerging digital media techniques and technologies. Okay, there are massive opportunities for that, and then I would see in the medium term, another 5 years down the line, that's going to be a massive growth area. And so the people who are coming out of being pro players now in their mid-20s, mid-late 20s, and they're looking for other opportunities, it's this type of opportunity that those people who are looking to retire and move on, this is the type of thing that they're going to be able to do as well. So we're providing opportunities there as well.
Yeah.
They might want to keep doing esports actually, and so there might be a market in post 29. Yeah,
absolutely. And just to end the stream, I'll let Badgertron27 leave on a comment. They've said we're a sixth form college, and as of this morning, we've already got 13 year 11 students signed up, while senior management are already in discussions with how remote learning will work for this course. So that's positive, right? That they've got that reaction already. And I guess what I'll do is, guys, thank you so much for joining, being our expert panelists today. I'm going to end the remote call with you now, and then I'm just going to talk to the stream and the viewers watching just by myself for 2 more minutes, just to round up with something. So thanks for your time, really appreciate it, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Cheers. Okay, so I'm still streaming just for a little bit, guys. I'm just going to talk to you about some things we've got coming up. We've got, looking at our stream schedule, we've got loads planned in May. We're going to update our stream schedule on the Twitch, on our Twitch page over the next few days. But this Friday, stick around. There's a special initiative called You Are Not Alone, which is they're going to be raising money for initiatives in the fight against COVID-19, and there's going to be a whole, I think it's 12 hours on this Saturday taking place, but the day before, which is this Friday, they're doing a series of different panels and discussions, and we've got a women in esports discussion with several of our committee members for our Women in Esports campaign. My colleagues Morgan and Alice will be on there. Kirsty Enfield, who runs a PR agency, Swipe Right, do a lot of work in esports. So please do check that out. I think timings are still to be confirmed, but if you follow our socials on Twitter and so on, I'm sure you'll see the confirmed timings over the next day or two. And as for the schedule in May, we've got loads of great stuff planned. We're going to be looking at doing special show matches once a month. So at the end, the last Friday of every month, we're going to do special show matches, and we've got some exciting things planned there. So please let us know. There we go, British Esports, that's Morgan there. We'll be live from 3:20 p.m. on Friday. So please do pop that in your diary and have a watch, and support the women on that stream. Please do, because they're doing a lot of great work there, and I'm proud to be a part of that. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I think that's everything. If I've missed anything, any up and coming initiatives and other work we're doing, I'm sure Elliot and Morgan and the others will be able to let you know in the chat. But for now, Sacco signing off, and I'll see you in the next stream. Cheers, guys.